Madam President, I'd like to follow on the speech just made by my friend and colleague from Utah about the current state of unemployment in America and what to do about it. One of the last things he says is get government out of the way. I would like to suggest that maybe, if he has some time, and I know he's a very busy man, he joined me in a trip to Peoria, Illinois, where I was last week visiting Lucas & Sons Steel Company. This company's been in business since 1857. It has 26 employees. The CEO is a delightful, dynamic young woman named Margaret Hanley. She has, as I said, 26 union employees, all iron workers, and what she does is fabricate steel for construction projects all over the Midwest and as far away as Antarctica. As I said, the company's been around over 150 years, and she prides herself in the fact, I asked her, where do you get your steel? She said, it's all American steel. How you doing? I asked her, and she said, great. And then she says, one of the reasons we're doing great is because of President Obama's stimulus package. The president said to American businesses like hers, you can borrow money at low interest rates to buy new machinery that will help you be more competitive. She said, come on, let me show you. We walked in the other room, and here was a computer-driven machine as big as a small room being handled by a fella that was literally taking steel girders, boring holes in them and bending them where they're supposed to be bent. She said, I can compete with the big boys with this. We're going to double the number of people working at Lucas & Sons Steel. Senator Hatch says, government, get out of the way. Thank goodness government was there for that company, a private company paying a living wage with decent benefits that's been around for a century and a half and is prospering because they're making quality products out of American steel with equipment that they bought through President Obama's stimulus package. How many times do we hear Senator McConnell come to the floor and say the president's stimulus package was a punchline on nighttime TV? Well, it isn't a punchline in Peoria. It's dead serious because people are working, making a good wage because of the investment in small business through government help. Now, I believe, and most Americans believe, real job creation is going to be in the private sector. Well, look what happened here. Because of the investment of government helping her to buy this machinery and be competitive, production, manufacturing jobs stayed right here in the United States. And that's what we want. 14 million people out of work. And as I travel up and down my state of Illinois, I visited some days with those who are unemployed, desperately trying to find jobs, and other days with businesses like Lucas & Sons Steel in Peoria that are doing well. And I asked them the key to their success. And they basically say that they've been lucky to have good products and great workers and great infrastructure. Get government out of the way, Senator Hatch says. But government has to be in the way for infrastructure. It's government that builds the highways, the bridges, the airports, the railroads. That's part of what the government is investing in for the future of our economy. Part of President Obama's jobs package is to put Americans back to work rebuilding basic infrastructure. We need it. We need it all across the Midwest and across the nation. And if you think we can afford to get government out of the way and not invest in infrastructure, take a look at what's going on in China today. In China, our number one competitor in the world and our number one creditor in the world, they are building right and left. They're preparing for the 21st century. They're going to build 50 new airports, Madam President, in the next 5 years that will accommodate every plane of every size made by Boeing aircraft. That's how big these airports are. 50 new ones. They're building the infrastructure to not only compete, but pass the United States. And when my colleagues on the other side come to the floor and say, get government out of the way, what do they mean? That we shouldn't be investing in infrastructure to make America strong for the 21st century? That the businesses large and small in Illinois that need modern, safe highways to move their goods back and forth to market shouldn't be turning to government for that help? It makes no sense. Historically, we have agreed on a bipartisan basis when it comes to infrastructure. We should agree again, and that is part of the president's jobs bill. Let me tell you what else is in there. We know that America's working families are struggling paycheck to paycheck. They took a survey recently, and they asked working families in America, how many of your families could come up with $2,000 in 30 days, either out of your savings or borrow it? Now, that isn't an unreasonable amount of money. A very moderate injury at an emergency room might cost you $2,000. So they asked him, and it turned out that only half, a little over half, of working families had access to $2,000. It shows you how close to the edge many families are living. It shows you that many of them are surviving paycheck to paycheck. Though they work hard, they just can't seem to get ahead. President Obama's Jobs Act says this: these working families deserve a payroll tax cut of 2%. What would that mean? 2% doesn't sound like much, but look what it means in Illinois. Our average wage in Illinois is about $53,000 a year. The 2% payroll tax cut would give to these families between $125 and $130 a month. A senator may not miss that amount of money, but for a lot of working families, it's the difference between filling your gas tank and buying the shoes for the kids to go to school. So the president's payroll tax cut puts money in the hands of working families to buy the goods and services to get the economy moving forward. And what else does the president suggest? He suggests in his Jobs Act that we need to provide tax incentives for small businesses to hire the unemployed. One of the things the president said when he spoke to us, is we ought to make sure that every veteran who served our country can find a job when they get home by offering incentives for businesses to hire returning soldiers. That's government involved. We create that incentive. The Republican side says, get government out of the way. I don't think so. These men and women who served our country, who risked their lives, who fought for America, should not have to come home and fight for a job and lose that fight. We ought to stand by them and help them find work. That is part of President Obama's jobs bill, and it's a reasonable part. Cutting the payroll taxes, cutting the taxes that small businesses pay so they're more profitable and can hire more people is a reasonable thing to do.